So this is slight delay. We are starting into the second part of our big day in Bundestag for Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft. I'm happy to welcome you probably all again, or those ones who were joining us later to do this session. After having a splendid debate with Xhabir Deralla and the distinguished panel, now we are heading for the second part of our day, which is the award ceremony for the Solidarity Award for Journalists from Southeast Europe. This award has been created some years ago by the Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft with two reasons. We have already for a long-standing time awards who are awarding journalists from or media actors from German-speaking areas who are reporting about Southeast Europe. But we decided that it's necessary also to focus on those journalists, critical, investigative journalists, perhaps also other media publishing persons, or perhaps even also relevant people from civil society publishing about their region or their countries. From the region, as we saw, that there's a rising political pressure, also with extent to personal threats in the region on journalists. So the idea is that we want to express our solidarity, first with the journalists from the region in general, by picking single distinguished examples from the region, who also should recognize that we recognize their work here in Germany, and whom we want to give a frame for receiving an award in the German Parliament, which is also underlining the importance of their work for democracy and for what European Union, but also German Constitution stands. This is why we hope that our symbolic appreciation of their work will be seen as a contribution to press freedom and freedom of speech. And of course, it is for us a special honor that we can do this in the establishments of the German Parliament. And we thank, of course, especially our colleagues from Deutscher Bundestag for being helpful in that. The money which is handed over with the award is also more symbolic than relevant, but it is important to say that this is fundraised from donations from people who are interested in this. So every euro doesn't count double at the cashier's desk, but in the heart, I think it counts many more times than others. This year, the award goes to a journalist and a human rights activist from North Macedonia. Our procedure is that we have first the laudation by Josip Juratovic, our vice president, who has been mentioned in the room before. And then, of course, our awardee should have the possibility for an acceptance speech, and afterwards there is a conversation organized with the award winner, and this conversation will be moderated by Adelheid Falke. I don't know who doesn't know her in this room, but she is the good heart and the good voice of Deutsche Welle regarding the region for us. Yeah, I will hand over to Josip, who will speak in German, so those ones of you who speak only English should look for the possibilities of interpretation.
Ja, lieber Manuel Sarrazin, sehr geehrter Herr Xhabir Deralla, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, es ist mir die Ehre und ich bin stolz darauf, als stellvertretender Vorsitzender der Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft und als jemand, der sein ganzes politisches Leben dem Frieden und der Demokratie auf dem Westbalkan gewidmet hat, heute ein Laudatio zu einer außergewöhnlichen Persönlichkeit halten zu dürfen. Medien, die nicht dem öffentlichen Interessen dienen, sondern individuellen Interessen, sind in der Regel korrupt. Da die Demokratie weitgehend auf der Medienfreiheit basiert, bedeuten korrupte Medien das Ende der Demokratie. Daher ist die Medienkompetenz der Bürgerinnen und Bürger in gewisser Weise auch ein Kampf für die Demokratie. Einer dieser Kämpfer ist Xhabir Deralla. Und mir persönlich ist die Ehre zuteil geworden, die Laudatio für die Verleihung des Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft Solidarity Award für sein außergewöhnliches, mutiges Engagement im Bereich der Medienfreiheit zu halten. Xhabir Deralla, geboren 1967, ist ein herausragender Menschen, Rechtsaktivist, Schriftsteller, Journalist und Analytiker für hybride Kriegsführung. Über 3 Jahrzehnte hinweg hat er einen außergewöhnlichen Beitrag im Kampf für Gerechtigkeit, Freiheit und Wahrheit geleistet, besonders im Kontext Nordmazedoniens und der Region des westlichen Balkans. Xhabir Deralla symbolisiert mit seinem beeindruckenden Karrierenweg als Menschenrechtsaktivist und Journalist den Kampf für die Entmilitarisierung, Geschlechter- und ethnische Gleichberechtigung sowie Demokratisierung. Sein Engagement für diese edlen Ziele ist nicht unbemerkt geblieben, sondern hat auch heftigen Widerstand von jenen hervorgerufen, die diese Werte nicht teilen. Derallas Arbeit war oft das Ziel brutaler politischer Angriffe und Verleumdungen in den Medien. Sein kompromissloser Kampf gegen Ungerechtigkeit und Korruption sowie sein unermüdliches Eintreten für die Rechte marginalisierter Gruppen haben ihn ins Rampenlicht gerückt, aber auch den Zorn jener geweckt, die seine Tapferkeit und Integrität missbilligen. Als Mitbegründer und Leiter der bedeutenden Menschenrechtsorganisation Civil, die 1999 gegründet wurde, hat Deralla die Organisation zu einem Synonym für innovative und kraftvolle Initiativen im Bereich der Menschenrechte, Demokratie und Bürgerbeteiligung gemacht. Er leitet erfolgreich kreative Projekte der Organisation, darunter multimediale Projekte, Aufklärungskampagnen, Festivals, Dokumentarfilme, Konferenzen und viele weitere Veranstaltungen. Sein Engagement für transparente und faire Wahlen zeigt sich in seiner langjährigen Arbeit als Wahlbeobachter seit 2008, wo er mit zahlreichen internationalen und regionalen Organisationen zusammenarbeitet. Derallas Expertise in der Waffenkontrolle und im Kampf gegen Desinformation unterstreicht zusätzlich seine Bedeutung im Kampf gegen moderne Sicherheitsbedrohungen. Als Chefredakteur und Autor bei den Medien von Civil hat Deralla einen unschätzbaren Beitrag zum Journalismus geleistet, durch Analysen und Kolumnen, die wichtige gesellschaftliche und politische Themen aufdecken. Seine journalistische Arbeit wird sowohl national als auch international hochgeschätzt und anerkannt. Seit 1990 ist er Mitglied im Journalistenverband Nordmazedoniens und seit 1994 Mitglied von Amnesty International. Sein literarisches Schaffen umfasst zahlreiche Werke, so zum Beispiel die Themen von russischer Propaganda und hybrider Kriegsführung bis hin zu Konflikten und Frieden in Nordmazedonien und nicht zuletzt Analysen von Korruption und Desinformation beinhalten. Besonders hervorzuheben möchte ich seine beiden Werke Ukraine, das Jahr des Heldentums, und darauf aufbauenden Werk Ukraine, Jahre des Heldentums, die die russische Aggression und des heroischen Widerstands des ukrainischen Volkes tiefgehend untersuchen. Deralla ist auch ein Co-Autor und Herausgeber vieler bedeutender Publikationen zum Thema wie künstlicher Intelligenz, grüner Wirtschaft, illegaler Verbreitung von Waffen, Bürgerjournalismus und Korruptionsbekämpfung. Seine Fähigkeit, komplexe Probleme zu erkennen und zu artikulieren, macht ihn zu einer Schlüsselfigur im öffentlichen Diskurs. Neben seiner schriftstellerischen Arbeit hat sich Deralla Auch als Produzent von Bildungs-TV-Serien und als Autor von poetischen und fotografischen Büchern einen Namen gemacht. Seine Werke wie Apokalypse und Wer wird die Rechnung bezahlen spiegeln seine künstlerische und intellektuelle Vielseitigkeit wider. Trotz der Konfrontation mit Bedrohungen und Hassreden ultranationalistischer und pro-russischer Gruppen setzt Deralla unermüdlich seine Arbeit fort, um die Werte zu fördern, die er für die gesellschaftliche Fortschritt als entscheidend erachtet. Sein Mut, seine Hingabe und sein unerschütterlicher Einsatz für Menschenrechte und Freiheit machen ihn zu einem wahren Helden unserer Zeit. Heute, da wir ihm die Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft Solidarity Award verleihen, würdigen wir seine außergewöhnliche Hingabe und seinen Beitrag. Möge sein Werk uns weiterhin inspirieren und uns in unserem Streben nach einer gerechteren und freieren Gesellschaft führen. Dankeschön.
Yeah, dear President of the Southeast Europe Association, Mr. Manuel Zalcin, dear Vice President of the Association, Mr. Josip Juratovic, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, thank you for this wonderful welcome, this warm welcome in Berlin and in this event. And thank you for your wonderful words. I promise I'll do my best to live up every single word spoken here today. And I want to share that also when I got the email from Mr. Christian Hagemann that I'm the one to receive the Solidarity Award. I had to fact check it twice. And I have to say that even now, I all of a sudden got, while listening to these speeches, I got an urge to fact check all this again. And okay, my job is to know words and to have skills with words, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be very skillful today. But preceding this event, I was clever enough to write a few notes here, so I'm going to be, I hopefully will sound somewhat sensible to you. First of all, I'd like to explain what this award means to me and to my colleagues. It means that we are not alone. It also means that the work is hard, the fight is even harder, but there is recognition. It means that solidarity exists. Evidence is here today. It means that there is support and there is hope. And this award is really unexpected, but much needed recognition coming in a right time, in the right moment, as Mr. Fuere wrote in the social media, a European diplomat himself as well. This is a recognition for the work and of our team's relentless efforts that we put every day in order to let facts prevail over disinformation, over severe propaganda narratives, and over the severe attacks, hybrid tactics that are conducted every day in the region, not only in North Macedonia. We also work relentlessly to defend the right to speak our minds and reveal the true stories of the discriminated and oppressed, even at the cost of our well-being and safety. And yes, we are here today, I am here today to receive this award, but I do so on behalf of my colleagues as well, who share the same challenges with me every day. I would not be here without them, and I thank them for making this possible. I also extend my gratitude to our audience in North Macedonia. It is not easy to be an informed citizen nowadays, trust me. And it's even harder to be an active and engaged citizen in North Macedonia, but the same is the situation in the Western Balkans, and even wider, I would say. When people like or share our stories about disinformation, about the struggle of the people of Ukraine, about human rights violations, gender-based violence, about LGBTIQ issues, they too receive hate messages from radicals and trolls. And we've evidenced that, we've recorded that. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to several individuals. Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann and Ms. Marion Kraske for nominating me, without my knowledge. Ambassador Gudrun Steinecke for her unwavering support during her tenure as German ambassador to North Macedonia and beyond until present day. The German Embassy of North Macedonia for their ongoing assistance to me, my team, to our organizations. Miss Adelaide Velke of the Deutsche Welle for her warm welcome and insightful conversation with from yesterday, and the dedicated staff of the Southeast Europe Association. Wonderful, and thank you very much for that. Finally, my colleagues and I need to thank the donor community for the support to civil society and the independent pro-democratic media in the country, since the oligarchs don't really like advertising with our media, and the government doesn't like having a fight with oligarchs, as you probably know. Ladies and gentlemen, a few words about myself. My name is former Yugoslav citizen Xhabir Deralla, now of North Macedonia, often labeled as traitor, mercenary, or spy for most of my adult life. A traitor of which nation, I still don't know, since I'm of mixed Albanian, Turkish, and Croatian origin. And my daughter is all of that plus Macedonian. So it's a real salade macédoine, as the French would say. And I've always worked in favor of the public interest, so I'm not a mercenary. As for being a spy, Facebook and Google are already doing all the job, I think. So I come from a country that has recently taken the right direction, just as France, even more recently, and as the country that is currently presiding EU quite a few years back. So they're all taking a right direction. And well, regardless of that, and of any jokes that might derive from this situation, which are not really very funny because it's a bit of reality, I'd like to stress that my country remains deeply divided, starting with its name. We used to be FYROM, or former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, until Prime Ministers of Greece and North Macedonia, Mr. Tsipras and Mr. Zaev, resolved the issue together with the international community in 2017. Yet some politicians now in power reject this name using either Macedonia or our country, furthering both external and internal divisions and polarization. This name issue is just one reason for the internal division and polarization. The interethnic division and tensions between Macedonian and Albanian communities are ongoing. Despite agreements like the Ohrid Framework Agreement in 2001, which ended a 6-month war, and numerous constitutional changes, laws, principles, often violated right after being adopted, the communities continue to drift apart. Regardless of the strategies and processes, the divide persists, and it is worsening the situation in the country. I believe that you will find similarities across the region. As for the rule of law, democracy and political culture, let me give you another personal example to illustrate how things are in my country. The leader of the biggest political party in opposition until recently, now in power, filed 2 identical lawsuits against me for slander and defamation. 2 different judges ruled in his favor, accusing me of violating his human rights. According to the European Convention on Human Rights, Articles 8 and 10, as if I'm some government, military or police force or structure, and he's a very powerless person. His lawyer, his lawyer later became technical minister of the interior, just ahead of the elections, after which I appealed, and the lawsuits are still active. Meanwhile, this leader has become the prime minister of my country, and his lawyer is now interior minister with full mandate. Last time I checked, in the EU it's called SLAP, or Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation. However, there are issues much more threatening than slapping journalists, and I'd like to address those briefly, if you allow me. North Macedonia is targeted by a long-standing and systematic Russian operations of influence and various hybrid warfare tactics. These operations are visible in media discourse and public communications, impacting the political, societal, and economic spheres. Media are one influential channel, that's for sure. But political parties, academia, civil society, part of the civil society, oligarchs, and the church are even more powerful and impactful factors here. Combined, these operations threaten the democracy and stability of our country on a very long run. And why? An isolated, unstable, poor, and divided country, such as North Macedonia, in a troubled region, such as the Western Balkans, poses a threat to the European Union. That's as simple as it is. And it also poses a threat and destabilization of the NATO's southern flank, at least. This is what we report on, even though it is not very pleasant for many persons and many groups' ears there. And that's how we become target of hate, of course, including myself. Our work is crucial in bringing facts about events in our country and the world, including the Russian aggression against Ukraine. It's essential to reveal that Russia attacked Ukraine and occupied parts of its territory, not the opposite, which some of the media in the country and the region are trying to present, that Ukraine is to blame, that the West is to blame. Kiev is not a capital of a Nazi government. That's important to explain to the audience, because the trend is the opposite. President Zelensky is Jewish, and the country is led by a democratically elected government defending its freedom and sovereignty. as well as the freedom of the democratic world, not the opposite. In a society where human rights are perceived as a threat and treason, a threat to national identity, narratives are created and a coded language is invented and used. Coded language, you know very well how it goes. And it's massively used everywhere in the public communication. This disinformation, accompanied with disinformation campaigns, goes so deep that even those who declare themselves as progressive persons or organizations sometimes disseminate these false narratives. Hate and death threats are daily challenges we and our families and friends face. Our work is discredited not with facts and arguments, but with hate and calls for rejection. In a deeply divided society where purity is highly valued and diversity is seen as treason, it is difficult to make people understand the values of facts. People perceive reality with emotions of fear, leading to hate, divisions, and violence. In such an environment, democracy is no longer desirable, and autocracy is seen as a defense against the others. People often believe that if they don't act, someone else will. If they don't vote for the party that brings prosperity and democracy, someone else will. If we don't fight disinformation, nationalist narratives, and Russian propaganda, someone else will. The truth is, if you don't, no one will. This is our common challenge and mission, to preserve and nurture democracy and democratic values through hard work and dedication to facts in public communication, personal and professional engagement in defending human rights and freedoms for all, and to sincerely and selflessly promote just peace in the world. The world is threatened by wars and dictatorships, as we all know. Each of us has the chance to play a crucial role in the grand puzzle of our world, standing against the dark shadows of control and violence. This isn't just an empty phrase. It is a reality proven time and again, but we need to live it first. Thank you once again for this honor and for recognizing the importance of our work. I strongly believe that together we can ensure that truth, justice, and democracy prevail. Thank you very much.
This was a very impressive and thoughtful speech, and thank you very much, Xhabir, for giving some insight in your work, and congratulations to the Solidarity Award of the Southeast European Association. We have been talking a lot in the last days and weeks, and we met in Kumanovo in North Macedonia.
I think you should tell the story why we met in Kumanovo.
Yeah, maybe I can say it in the beginning. You know, we are now 25 years after the ceasefire, after the Kosovo War, and the ceasefire was signed in Kumanovo in North Macedonia, and we had an activity with Serbian and Kosovar journalists. And by this occasion, we met there for the first time, and for thinking of how to develop our conversation. And I really appreciate that since that time, we didn't know each other before, we became friends and stayed together yesterday until 1 o'clock.
We actually were in the same circles, but somehow we missed meeting.
Yeah. So, and to share a bit of our thoughts and our conversation with you, I would like in the beginning to start in asking you a bit about your personal biography. How did you start to become a human rights activist, and when you were a child, and what drives you? What was the motor? How you became the person you are today?
I think the program is a little bit shorter. Otherwise, I will need until 4 o'clock in the morning. We already heard very nice things about me. I'm really endlessly grateful for that. But I also tried to say something. But the thing is that I come from a mixed family with mixed ethnic backgrounds and everything, and I lived in a period of time which was awakening of nationalism in the former Yugoslav Federation, and I could see things moving in a worse, in a bad direction. So that was enough of an impulse to start working in this direction. But I think my grandmother, who is a Croatian from Dalmatia, she is the one who instilled the revolt against any form of injustice in me. She was the most rebellious, she was always identifying and always speaking out very loud, against injustice of any sort. I mean, she was defending, wives of men in the neighborhood who would be ill-treated. She would shout at children who would ill-treat an animal on the street and everything. And she was singing to the roses. She loved roses, and she was singing to them Croatian songs.
Okay, but if you hear a name and if you read it, we don't think about your Croatian grandpa, but your name sounds very Albanian.
Yes,
and,
yes it is.
And when I first Googled who is Xhabir Deralla, I found Mehmet Pasha Deralla, who was one of the founder of the Albanian National Development. So when we were talking, there's also a history of warriors in your family.
He was the first minister of war of Kingdom of Albania, actually, and he is a relative of mine. I belong to that family, that for sure.
So this is another part of your heritage.
If you look at my biography, you will see that I never was in the army, and I'm a conscientious objector myself, and I used to work much more, but I'm still involved in the network of arms control and fight against gun culture and fight against illegal proliferation and organized crime related to that. So yes, some of my friends sometimes half jokingly, sometimes even seriously, tell me that my grandfather turns in his grave, knowing what I'm doing in my life. Because I was also in 2001, I was running all sorts of initiatives for peace and reconciliation. Yes, I mean, you don't choose the family, but you can choose your presence and future. So here I am, and I'll go on my way.
And when we were also talking about the aim of the Solidarity Award, Emmanuel mentioned the two elements of excellency in journalism, but also the award goes to people who need also solidarity because they are attacked and they are facing threats and physical and cyber mobbing and everything. And I think you have been attacked several times, very often and very seriously. And do you think, or what do you think has this personally to do with you as a person? As you mentioned yourself as a Salat Macedon, is this something that makes you more
Yeah, more of a target.
vulnerable.
I think it makes me more of a target. Of course, it makes me also even more decisive to do what I'm doing. But of course, it makes me more of a target because you know, when there is a tendency of dividing the country, then those who represent the bridges are being targeted because bridges are not welcome in operations when you divide a society between one or another side. So that's why I'm a very good target, you know, on both sides if you wish. Because those who live and exploit and benefit and profit from division, from violence, from nationalism, they don't like people like me. They don't like people like those that are working in civil and civil media, who are coming from all ethnic communities and all religious communities. And we are gathered not by some operation that has to be proportionally this and that. We gathered each other amongst each other by chance and by professional and moral and human affinities. We gathered around values and ideas. So that's why it's very, very diverse. But that's why we are, in the last 7 years, we've been attacked 5 times, broken into, our offices were vandalized several times. All sorts of messages were left there, like a shovel, like we are going to dig a grave and put you in grave. So the shovel was there, found several times. On our doors, it was written Nazi on a very long, on a number of occasions, you know, and we were called Nazi, especially after the beginning of the Russian brutal aggression against Ukraine. We were called Ukraine Nazis and things like that. You know, it's normal that we are a target, and it's normal that I'm representing the group, the media platform, and the human rights organization that we're running, the most prominent, the most desirable target.
Hopefully it's not normal.
Yeah.
But
I
you
mean,
know, despite the fact that North
it's our
Macedonia,
everyday life.
yeah, but
To us, it's
the
not.
situation doesn't seem to be very good.
No.
And but on the other hand, North Macedonia is now ranking in the report without border on a very high position. It is the best position, 36th, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
36.
The best in the Western Balkan, and
Yeah.
even inside Europe it's a very good position. But I think especially what you describe is the opposite. How come?
You know, the thing is that the atmosphere in the country that has been created in several years past, and I believe that it's going to remain the same in the forthcoming period, because judiciary will be first on the list. But we can speak about that a little later. There was a freedom of media enabled in the country. Truly, media could say, write, publish most of what they would think, and they would find and everything. So the ruling coalition was criticized on a daily basis. So, and they didn't face any sort of repercussions. And what I'm describing here is that we are, and I am, targeted by far-right nationalists and for anti-Western elements in the country. And, you know, also by a, as I described, by a nationalist party that has never left the control of judiciary, regardless of the fact that it was in opposition for almost 7 years.
Which is now in power.
And
again.
it's now in power.
So how do you see the situation, or what do you, how to say, we don't want to be too pessimistic, but how do you see the situation after the forming of the new government and the election?
I don't want to be pessimistic either, and I'd like to paraphrase someone here in the room, that we should look at the government's actions now, not the government's past, and not what they represent, at least for a few months. But that's probably the point where my optimism ends. Because we are talking about a political party that has never reformed, never left its past that we've seen and experienced for 11 years of kleptocracy, of industrial level of election rigging, of dividing the country along ethnic and religious lines, and violation of human rights, and structural violence that has been introduced as a daily practice. So we are talking about a party that hasn't changed a lot from that period of time. And regardless of the declarations that the country will continue its European Union integration process and efforts, I think that very soon we will see that there is nothing going to happen, and that will cause a lot of trouble in the country, division along ethnic lines, and maybe even security crisis.
So you are here in the environment of a lot of experts from different associations and political parties. So what do you ask for, or what do you expect from the political factors in Germany, in Europe? What should be done, or what can be done in order to avoid the negative developments?
First of all, if I may get a little bit out of North Macedonian boundaries, my first recommendation would be very careful with the Balkan politicians, okay, with the Balkan politician as a species. So be very careful, because they're after the packages, you know which ones, from the ministries of foreign, ministries of finance in your countries and in Brussels. Of course, they know very well what you need to hear, and they will do their best to send you home smiling. And then they will go on with their existing operations, even being sure that they bought another couple of weeks or months or even years by making you smile. Sorry?
You have to ask Emma.
Yeah, probably. So, what the European Union countries, especially the most powerful one in the European Union, namely Germany, could do is to understand the subtleties of the political and societal relations within our countries, and in North Macedonia, as we speak about my country now. And of course, see to help to support the processes, the organizations, and the media that are not having other sources, that are not supported by financial sources from within the country. As I said, the oligarchs would not advertise with us, ever. And we've never had any advertisement from a big company and things like that, or big business. And it's very important that the German government and German foundations, donors, and also media should understand that we are on the front lines, not only for our democracy, but also for yours. Just as the Ukrainians are really defending our peace today, we're also there, because it's a global, interconnected world. Nowadays, you don't have a small or a big nation that can severely attack your election system or your election process. You all know 2016, when a small group of hackers and internet experts, young ones, in Veles, a tiny town in the central part of North Macedonia, actually influenced quite seriously the United States elections. You read about it. And I know the neighborhood where because for me it's like from here to Vanzé, like, or even more closer. So you don't need to be a big country in order to harm very seriously a much bigger country, much richer. Why? Because the hybrid warfare is exactly that. It's really amazing how it works, and it can really attack you from a side or from a space that you can never expect. That's why we believe that in North Macedonia, regardless of the challenges, regardless that the country has gone in a very right direction, we can still strive there and be a showcase on how to defend a much bigger society such as the German one. Because, so that's very important to understand. And so those three things are somehow interconnected, to help people and groups and organizations and media that are committed, truly committed. And just be careful with Balkan politicians. I have to say that again.
Okay, I hope everybody got the messages. But now we are here as two journalists. So my next question would be, so what should we do? So what is your message to your colleagues or to your own media? What can be done from a journalistic point of view to counter disinformation and to contribute to a better understanding of society, to better understand what is right and what is wrong?
Yeah, of course. I mean, values are there, so be true to yourselves, and be sure that you will prevail. That's for sure. I mean, I'm confident, and I have arguments why we will prevail. And of course, speaking a little bit more concretely, we must update our knowledge and skills every day, maybe even twice a day, because the technological advancement is so dynamic that we need to at least try to understand what is going on. All these technological advancements, including the artificial intelligence, can bring enormous benefits to the humanity, but also enormous perils, because the danger is always there, because the authoritarian, dictatorial, militant regimes will try, and they're already doing that, engage the artificial intelligence against democracy, against human rights and freedoms. And that's very important to lead the technological advancement in your environment and give space you know, I have to say, my age is not letting me be up to date with all the advancements and so on, but I'm very happy to see that my younger colleagues are all stepping up with these, so that's there. But never forget the skills, the old-fashioned skills of journalism, to understand, to speak to at least 3 or 4 sides in one story and so on. And one most important issue, media must not be message boards. We're not message boards. We must struggle against false balance. We must struggle against putting up one side and now we're putting up the other side. Treating Mr. Kuleba and Mr. Lavrov in the same way in media. Of course you can quote, but then find, fact check both sides and you will see where the water runs.
Okay, before we open the floor to other questions, I just wanted to you to give a bit more of an insight about your engagement in Ukraine. The 2 books have already been mentioned. You wrote about Ukraine. You've been traveling to Ukraine several times, and maybe this is something unusual and unexpected from a journalist who is active and very how to say, committed to the development in North Macedonia, that you, beside this, are very actively also working on the information about the developments and the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And my question would be the following. So we have been discussing before when we had the panel with Mr. Deralla on the more global view on the situation, and how do you see the impact of the Russian war on Ukraine in the Western Balkans, and why are these things, according to what I read in your books, so much connected?
Thank you for the question. I think it's pretty logical. First of all, because the Russian aggression against Ukraine has entered its 11th year. And we've been following, I've been following the situation since 2014, when the little green men, as the BBC called them, popped up in Crimea. And I could see that that has been preceded by a long-standing operational influence already in the region where I live. I could see also in 2018, the year when our citizens were invited to, or called upon to take part of the referendum to adopt the new name that enabled North Macedonia to become a NATO member. We could see it in the air, how, I mean, thick the propaganda, the operational influence was back in 2018 in order to prevent North Macedonia really adopt the new name and become a member of NATO already in the beginning of 2019. And I knew that it's all connected. And we already knew that the operation to attack on a full-scale basis Ukraine was there. You know, maybe not in 2018, but already in 2019 we saw the signs. And we could see that in 2022, months before that, the operational influence was very strong, extremely strong. You know, so we could see that it will affect us and it will affect the whole world. Has it proved to be right? So that's why I think that Ukraine maybe is the key, or the fight and the victory of Ukraine to defend its sovereignty and freedom will be the key to to many issues in the world, especially in Europe, especially regarding safety. Of course, there are many arguments to counter this standpoint, but okay, let's discuss and then we see where we go. But of course, that the Ukrainian fight is actually affecting the whole world. You know, look at the food security, look at the threat, the nuclear threats, and of course the hybrid warfare has been intensified, cyber warfare is intensified, and we know very well, because I have a few colleagues who know very well how it goes, cyber warfare, and how a cyber attack can really paralyze a whole country and take lives.
And this will also be the topic of the next book, as far as I understood.
Yes.
Decoding Russian war propaganda. So this is challenging.
Yeah.
When will it be published?
Well, I hope to get some support, because it requires also field visits to a number of places in the Balkans. I want to speak to people who are both experts, but also to people who have been either involved in the operations or have been targeted or victimized by these kind of operations. So I'm looking for some support to exercise this, because I'm not doing it alone. There is a whole team behind it. And also we need to go to Ukraine as well, but also to visit several places across the Balkans, from Zagreb to Sofia.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
I have more questions. Probably you also have some questions to Xhabir.
We killed it.
Johanna again.
Yes.
Okay, Manuel? Manuel?
Sorry, you were first.
Sorry.
No, I waited for Johanna.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think-
congrats.
I think that
No,
You
it's
cannot
not.
have more than
My congrats, well deserved. Given the political situation in North Macedonia today, I think we have to be worried, as you also described. So what happened to the so-called bombshells? Is there any solution that will have really consequences? And I'm sure that you are following very closely. And we also know that the former Mialkov, that security who's indicted, that he is running free around the country with no consequences. And how must you feel to know that probably even Gruevski is coming back?
It became obvious for some time now that the citizens, the thousands of citizens who marched for justice, part of marching for freedom and democracy, they also marched for justice, is not going to happen. It was obvious for some time. There are several reasons for that. We can't abolish the previous government from responsibility in that area, not at all. But we also need to have in mind that after all those bombs, as you said, the wiretap conversations that were broadcasted in 2015, and the elections in 2016, the then governmental party won with 2 seats more in the parliament. So they were not enough. So they were very strong in the parliament, and they could, and they did, block quite a few processes, including the judicial reforms, which again I have to say, is not abolishing the previous government from failing to take many actions to bring justice in these cases. It became obvious that corruption is deeply, deeply rooted in the society, in the system, and I would even say in the culture of the society. We're talking about culture of corruption, because political culture is not only to know your rights when you go to a polling station and so on. It's also to know values. And when corruption is there, part of the everyday life of people, when values are corrupt, then it's very easy for corruption to take roots in every aspect of running a government, local or central. So, yeah, the person you mentioned, he was in charge of the operation of wiretapping. I was wiretapped for 4 years and a half. And I was part of a process, of a lawsuit. After receiving a 400 or so pages decision, which was actually rubbish, excuse my expression. Well, basically it was like, okay, there are no evidence enough, the case is outdated, and if you like, there is a legal advice there at the end of the 450 pages document I received. If you like, you can pursue this defendant in a court of law, in a citizen court of law, how do you put that? Thank you very much. You know, I already have 2 lawsuits to serve, to pay the fines and everything. I didn't want to pursue any process anymore, because I'm even personally disappointed in how things went and turned out. I don't know if I answered correctly.
Thank you. Some people here know that I'm living next to a river, and this river, there is 2 bridges in the village, from the other side of the river to the other side of the river. One of the bridges was built in the 60s, the other one 59. So while you walk over in 10 seconds over the river, for centuries and centuries, the villages on the other side of the river were like enemies, while the next village on my side of the river is still having the same church and the same cemetery, being 5 kilometers far away. So I usually say that bridges are not only improving communication, transport, they also change views. Because suddenly you go over, and is it in the beginning usually for beating each other up on the yearly fair in front of the church, it's changing your views. So I think bridges are very, very important for that. And especially in a country like North Macedonia, where the big conflict had been avoided in 2001 by the European perspective, which was the only one everybody could agree on in the country. I see your fear honestly that if it's obvious that this perspective is not realistic at all anymore, for even not as a aim, that this might be especially difficult in North Macedonia. I think in the last years we were sometimes underestimating the importance of North Macedonia, because there's always more conflict, trouble, crisis, and very bad developments between Kosovo, Serbia, regarding Bosnia. We had the stagnation in Montenegro, we have the democratic backsliding in Serbia. And we could go on and go on. But anyhow, I think that for the credibility of the new enlargement, North Macedonia case is so important as Ukraine for the world. But on the other hand, I see today that there are known, how to say diplomatically, let's say it with this phrase, it is difficult to substitute missing political will in the region by just more political will from us. Also when you try to be respectful with the region. And as Gerhard Eller said, the times are changing regarding the global order. The old rules of Brussels, Washington, or Berlin, whether Berlin ever could, but the old rules of the order Balkan delivers, even in this logic of nice smiling and getting the funding, it's not working in that way anymore. Today, the one who is the strongest saying no to us is winning elections by far. This model of Serbia is having nice copies in neighboring countries. And this also means we have to be realistic on that. Last year we tried as Germany to give a bridge to North Macedonia. This parliament decided, which is very rarely, on a resolution for your country, for Macedonian identity, culture, and language. But nobody crossed this bridge. Nor the government, nor the opposition used this opening of a bridge for changing the views of the people. And this is why I think it's very true to say, let's give the new government some money to find a way of being inside the office, counter-checking the former approaches and not valuing or waging too early what will be done or not. Because what has to be done, it is unfortunately unbelievably obvious, because I don't see any possibility or big possibilities for big general changes or shifts of that.
Mr. Zaratin, I actually, when I said I'm going to paraphrase somebody in the room, it was, if I may reveal, it was you. That's why
that's why you looked at me in a second.
Yes, yes, very discreetly. Indeed, and I think that the government may decide if it wants to rule in peace with some stability, and maybe will unlock the way to the European Union and correct the failure of even the previous government in not crossing the bridge as you so well described. And maybe they will just decide to say, okay, let's do something and go on with the EU integration and still do all our businesses and corruption and everything. Or they may choose or fail in the process to not cross the bridge and then create an internal problem, especially after Albania will just go on with its EU integration. There will be a serious problem within the country, and the Albanians will say, okay, we were waiting long enough. So some politicians in the country already said that, I'm only paraphrasing what they were saying in the past months, and that could create a real serious problem. Another issue in the country is that now we have a parliament which is composed by a vast majority of right-wing political parties and far-right nationalists. And the political representation of the progressive, pro-democratic, pro-human rights part of the society is close to zero, especially since they're locked in their own internal political party elections and strifes and everything. So it is important that the Berlin, Brussels, or Washington DC governments should send a signal to the country, not necessarily to the government, to the country, to the parliament, to the powerful people there, that they need to respect diversity and respect even those that are in minority, regardless of its category, minority in ethnic or political or cultural or sexual orientation sense of the term. And I think, yes, you're right, let's wait for some time, but the time for the Western Balkans, especially North Macedonia, is really short. That's something they need to understand. Because Moldova, Ukraine especially, they're now on the train. If they cross several stations and we still are in the mud, we'll stay there.
Our attempts didn't work out yet.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we'll try.
So, very interesting. So we should be a bit more patient and more optimistic in what's going on.
I agree.
Christian
I
is
should.
next.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas, and I especially like the point that you said that you in North Macedonia are also defending our democracy, because I also very much believe that this is a global struggle that we're fighting here. And I also believe very much that we should also learn from the region and from countries like North Macedonia, because as a political scientist, looking at political parties, like 20 years ago there was a turning point in this kind of research. So until then, basically the belief was, okay, the parties in the post-socialist region will develop at some point in the same direction like in Western Europe. And then people saw, okay, it doesn't happen. So the question was, why doesn't it happen? And then the idea came up, okay, because it's the other way around, because the parties in Western Europe develop in the direction of those of Eastern Europe, which seems to me pretty much true, because they're losing their constituencies, they're getting more volatile in all these aspects. And I think this could also be the case when it comes to political systems now, because what North Macedonia showed us, for example, very well is like the storm on the parliament. North Macedonia was first with this and not the US, but the US came shortly after, and it was almost the same thing that happened in both countries, even though like the oldest democracy and a pretty new democracy here. And we have now the situation.
Not the first one, I didn't go to history.
Yes, but in the relevant and recent
The
history.
playbook is older.
And we have now a lot of developments in Europe. If we look at France, but also the results of the European elections, where we see we have the same menace of parties fostering nationalism and identity politics, and also being anti-democratic, gaining more power. So my question for you would be, what should we look out in our own political systems in Western Europe? What are the signs where it becomes critical for democracy, and what are the things that these parties might do to harm democracy that we probably don't recognize in the first place because we are not used to these tactics and these strategies?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at the French example as well, not only ours. You could see that it's been an effort that took years. Actually, it's building the narrative. It's building the narrative and also building the culture and to change the codes of communication, using the tools of democracy against democracy. That's a fantastic tool that has been also used by Kremlin strategists while attacking the Western democracies. Use every bit of the opportunities for people to speak out, to seed the poison of dissent, poison of countering and disbelieving institutions, to nurture polarization and polarizing narratives. If everyone wants to go and get the vaccine. Then start a small group of people who will see the fear that the vaccines are rigged, that they are full of some chips that will change your behavior and everything. And if you see that the anti-vaxxer movement is very powerful, it's almost dominating the public discourse, then try to find the progressive people in that group and try to give them, empower them, encourage them to fight the anti-vaxxers, help them. So that's exactly what these groups and political parties, political movements are doing. They're sowing discord and they're using coded language. You know, sometimes even a small a movement of the body can mean something that has a very long narrative about one or another community, and that the progressives in power there in Paris or in Berlin, they didn't deal with this issue, with these, let's say, in the UK they call them the Pakis, you know, or you know, just to take care of the polarizing narratives and try to find the counter narratives that first expose them and then provide your own narrative that speaks of stability, prosperity, and the benefits from democracy. Because in the end, that proved so true in the history and now. You know, all these power centers, the far right, the nationalists, they always lead to a disaster, economically, politically, and even in terms of security. You know, their policies lead to a disaster. You know, maybe the left-wingers are not so realistic when it comes to economy and things like that, but the far right, they're even more unrealistic in every sense of the term, and they will lead the society and the institutions into a very bad place. Thanks.
This is too negative for me, the last one.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how can we turn it around a bit in a more positive way? So maybe you also have a recipe to
Yeah, sure.
To learn from Macedonia, North Macedonia, how to overcome these unfortunately very negative phenomena.
Well, we live in quite challenging times, and I'm sure that it might even get a little worse than now, before it starts getting better. You know, but what we need to do is to find the perfect balance when to try and show how devastating those policies are, but then also try and find courage to say things directly and not to step away from anything. Maybe put an embargo on diplomatic language, you know, and then just say things directly and without any compromise, you know, and maybe again with the French example, and I think this is going to be positive. You know, when the National Assembly in France won the elections in the European Parliament on June the 9th. On June the 10th, the New Popular Front, or New People's Front, was established. And their second in power a second in the parliament, and we are waiting for the second round now. We'll see what happens. But in only 19 days, political parties that were hating each other's guts, politicians that were, not really going along very well with all the others and so on. They gathered, they formed a coalition in 19 days. In 24 hours, they, and I have a personal friend who told me about all this from France. She was involved in these processes. In 24 hours, they invented an OK program that won 4.5% of votes less than the National Assembly. And they're looking very optimistic for the 7th of July with the second round in France. So maybe it will not be the best outcome, but at least the far right will not get the absolute majority. And that I think for now we have to be happy with this outcome.
I'm just looking around. No more questions? Okay.
So my name is
And maybe this is the last question because we are supposed to end.
We're supposed to have a couple of drinks
Reception,
after this.
but of course,
The micro.
Could you use the
My
micro?
name is Dorian. I have a bit loud. So my name is Dorian. I heard you that you state that EU countries need to speak up against the enemy, to say so. And we have to criticize for their behavior. But how the European countries are can speak up and criticize the enemy when the EU Parliament will be choosing a person who is in jail at the moment and will represent the European values in the European Parliament. How does that affect the images of the EU in the Western Balkans? And how can we trust, to say so, to the EU that would be fair and they themselves are choosing people that have a criminal backgrounds from EU countries, and at the moment they are a person who is in Albania in jail will be part of the parliament.
Even though it's a parliament, in the Balkans.
Sorry?
Okay.
Well, don't worry about that. Balkan politicians will feel at home in those kind of situations. Well, I mean, it's important to understand that it's all democracy. Just look at the latest decision in the United States. I mean, the immunity issue of Trump and everything, that's democracy. And that's exactly the area where the far right and anti-democratic power centers are attacking, using the democracy against itself. And that's it. But, what shall we do? Surrender? No. No, what we need to do is to constantly build confidence into elections as processes, as important processes, but also to build trust in institutions, trust in law, laws and regulations, and also to identify and decisively strike against hybrid warfare tactics, including disinformation, propaganda narratives, long-standing operations of influence, and so on. And we have people that understand these things in their essence. We used to live in the socialism, didn't we, for a very long period of time, and we know how these secret services are working. We know how those narratives are being built, and we actually know how to counter them. And use us. We can do it together, both in our countries and for the sake of Europe and for the sake of the world's freedom. Was it positive enough?
This was very positive, and it was perfectly bridging again what we what we're aiming to, and I think we took a lot of lectures, we as a Western people who have not this experience from the former socialist time, so hopefully some good more examples
Exactly.
to profit, that we all can benefit for a better and more democratic and free and peaceful Europe. And I hand over to
I don't forget about the fact that you learned a lot of lectures from your past, because of the division of the country. But you know, I'm afraid we're kind of better, unfortunately.
So we keep this for the next discussion.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think my part is to close this event, say thank you to everybody here. Thank you especially also Adelheid for the moderation. I just have to say one sentence. It's not the first time that somebody who is convicted for a criminal crime in his or her original country from is elected as a member of the European Parliament. I don't say that you can compare it, but that it is politically easy to compare it is a part of the game. So we should have this in mind. The person I'm talking about was for a short time even arrested in Neumünster.
Yeah.
So we might also think about that. I think for us it was inspiring to listen to you today. We hope that we could inspire you by letting you feel that we read what you write, we follow what you do, and we listen to what your thoughts are. And thank you so much for that. And before everybody is flying out, there is some food and drinks outside, but the MPs and you will have to go for a photo as well. So
Okay.
you can decide first drinks, then photo, but if you have first a drink, don't get lost before the photo. Afterwards, you don't care. Thank you so much.